Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. This Japanese Larch bonsai is no longer any good at all as a bonsai. The reason being its basic branch structure has been lost. These two main branches, and to a degree this little back branch, were all lost. Not the winter just gone, the winter before. And I left them last spring to see if they could possibly shoot out. Well, they haven't done, they're dead. So as a plant structure is concerned, it's lost. So it's no good as it is. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take quite a risk, but effectively I've got nothing to lose. And I'm going to air layer the trunk. Now on a conifer, albeit a deciduous conifer, the chances of success are pretty slim. With quite vigorous deciduous trees, an air layer on a branch or even the main trunk can be very successful. But on a conifer it's reputed to be incredibly difficult. But as I said, I've got nothing to lose. So effectively I'm going to hopefully recreate a tree from this point. Okay, by putting a layer on, which I'll film as I go along. Now it's also lost these two branches, but as this tree leans forward, the apex of the tree, if the tree can be recreated from lower down, you can see that those two branches around the back are not that important, because I'll have this one and this one as my two start-up branches, and then I've got some more to take over, and these can be thickened up and raised in height to fill that gap in. So I think I could end up with a reasonable tree. It's got some form to what will become the new trunk, so it could work. And what's left will be the base of the tree with two branches, and what I may do with that is turn that into a windswept style and actually leave part of this trunk and take the bark off and carve it to look as though it's been battered by the wind, and then shorten everything that points towards that area and allow it to grow a little bit out the back, and that might work. So I could end up with two usable trees, but at the moment I've got one that has just had it as a bonsai. And I like this tree. It's a Japanese larch, so it's slower growing than the English larch anyway, and it has much smaller, brighter green rosettes than our version. It's a pretty tree, and it was doing incredibly well, and now it isn't. So we'll see what we can do with it. I'll set the tripod up and we'll have a go. Right, first job is to get rid of what I don't want, because it'll only be in my way. So we'll take these dead branches off, just literally so that they're not in my way. That's the proverbial dead wood. You do get dieback in the winter. It's just something that happens, and given that that happened in a mild winter, that is a little unusual. Right, now I'm going to need a sharp knife, aren't I? Preferably one that doesn't take my fingers off. I'm just going to sharpen that. Oh, won't be a minute. Right, let's see what we can do then, preferably without taking my fingers off. You're supposed to have about an inch of clean bark to do this, or I may not get a full inch, but the most important thing is to have a clean cut and make sure it goes in deep enough. And it's the top cut that's important. What happens lower down doesn't matter so much, because that's not going to be kept anyway, but I still need a place to peel the bark back to. So we'll dig in there, and then we'll see what bark comes off and see what we're left with. That's quite thick bark. good job I cut in quite a long way. The idea is that the bark comes off to that clean cut and then strips down to the other cut, which, as I said, that's less important. It doesn't really matter what the bottom of the cut looks like, but the most important thing is a nice clean top cut with no pathway for water or nutrients to pass up from the bottom of the plant. So it's quite important to scrape all these pitty bits off, because if it can find a path, it will use it and it will inhibit the root growth. So it's quite important to get all this off. It's coming off quite easily, actually. Make sure there's no yellow showing effectively. Nice white wood. And then the auxins and things like that in the plant up here in the top should register some serious damage down below and send the appropriate signals to produce roots. That's my theory, and it may or may not work. As I say, this is not it's reputed to not be very successful on conifers, but all I can do is try. As I say, I have nothing to lose. Let me just get that stumpy bit out of the way. That's where one of the old branches was. Right, that's not bad. A nice clean cut. That's the important bit, is this bit here. As I say, this bit don't matter. And you never know, the damage to the bottom part of the plant might actually produce some growth off this trunk, and if it does, then we can scrap the windswept style and actually start growing a new tree. Pick a new lead and start growing it upwards again, because these two bottom branches are smashing. So right, that's it. I'll now go and get the gubbins to actually make the layer. I'll be back. Okay, now comes the fiddly bit. The idea is to make a bag of damp sphagnum around that area. And as I said, this is the fiddly bit because the moss falls out. The idea is to create a bag with the moss already in it. Sort of like that. And then we can wire the bottom, stop it all falling out. Oh, I remember last time I did this there were swear words. Now, it's quite important that that's reasonably tight. The idea is to not let too much air in, because the air will dry it. So the idea is to seal that moisture in there for good. And it could be a long time before it comes out. I'm just going to turn this around so there's less branches around this side. I can see what I'm doing better. Now it's important that the sphagnum around the cut, the top cut, is tight. So I'm going to try and pack as much as I can down in there without splitting the polythene. You know, there's a limit to how much it can hold, basically. But it needs to be in direct contact with that cut so that it stays moist, and if we do get any roots, they've got something damp to get straight into and grow on. And this could be in place a minimum of 3 months, and I'll probably wait 6 months, unless I see roots coming out the bottom, at which point it might be time to check what's going on. But there's plenty of moisture in there, and now what I've got to try and do is seal the top so that all the moisture doesn't come out, which means getting the moss a little bit further down so that the wire's got something to bite onto. That's nice and tight in there. Now all I've got to do is seal that top. So a bit more wire. seal that up nicely, which I think I can now. You can see there's a lot of moisture in there. That's good. That's good. Let's see if we can take this round and seal that top nicely. A bit lower down. Actually, I'll start lower down to get a grip with the wire, and then move it up slowly and pinch it. That way it shouldn't pop out. Luckily, because it's wire, once it's there it will stay there. And this top piece of wire may need to be undone every now and again, but I'm just making sure I've sealed the top so all that moisture stays in there. And that really is it. Apart from offering a quick prayer to the rooting gods. Yes, I am joking. As I said, the chances of success with this are relatively slim, but it's got to be worth a try to try and do something with this tree. So that's it. It's layered. There's a good amount of moss in there and moisture, and minimum of 3 months now, but every now and again I will just need to ease that wire off the top, check that it's still moist inside, but probably it'll be autumn before I actually peel that back and see if I've got any roots. So six to 8 months, something like that. And we'll see what happens. But while I'm at it, while I'm here, I just want to trim up some of these longer branches. You have to bear in mind that the only food the top part of this tree is going to get from now on is photosynthesis type food, and what it's got stored up inside it already. It's not going to get any more from any roots, is it? So I'm just trying to reduce the amount of greenery on the top here, so that it hasn't got to work quite so hard while it's got no access to other types of food. Actually, that one can come back a bit more. So I'm already thinking about what these branches may look like when it becomes a tree, if it does grow some roots. So I don't want to go too mad. You can come off. As I say, it's just a greenery reduction without spoiling the shape of what will become the tree eventually. Now the bottom part of this tree, quite honestly, I don't care. That can be allowed to grow on. But even so, there's a couple of long extensions on here that can just come back. I'll only end up taking them back later in the year. It's better that they put their energy into the buds a bit farther back. We'll give it a bit more shape as time goes on. There's a bit sticking up there, that can come off. You can go back a bit. That'll do. As I say, that's only a rough trim. That's not training as such, it's planning ahead a little bit. And now all we can do is put that back outside and see what happens. There's nothing more I can do with this tree. That's the best chance I can give it. Hang on, let's get the camera down, it's easier. I've just tilted the pot a bit because if this does form roots, that's more the angle that the new tree will be. So that's more of its shape. In fact, it might even go a little bit farther back than that. But if I can get some roots here, yeah, then they can be spread as it's potted, and that will hopefully draw some shape to the base of the trunk, and the branch structure that's left is not bad. Not bad at all. It'll do. It's certainly a lot better than what was there with that huge big gap in it, which was never going to be any good. And then I'll worry about what I'm going to do with the bottom of the plant if the top of the plant roots and can be cut off, which is the long-term plan, obviously. But yeah, long-term project. It'll either work or it won't, but that's the best chance it's got of recreating a tree with some reasonable shape to it and a number of branches I can work with. So we'll go from there. Thanks for dropping by.